Hello, fellow hunters. Would you like to be teased?
Bloody hell, it's Laggy!
Oh, that's enough. So this is the full prototype hunt with Lagiacrus in from the GDC, and I think it is fascinating. So we're going to talk about this and some of the stuff that they showed, and lament a little bit at some of the features that got taken out, and then take a little bit of a educated speculation, as it were, at the new monster we're getting in April, this very month. In case you didn't know that we're in April. And the reason that we're like to get a new monster, at least to my mind, is that they did say the next big DLC update is in April, and they said this nearly a week after revealing all the details of the Spring Festival, so they're not just referring to that. And to me, a big update to Monster Hunter, I mean, it would have to be colossal to not include a new monster and still feel like a big update, right? Like, I'm not alone in that, surely. So, we'll talk about the 4 leaked monsters still from that list that has otherwise been 100% accurate that we are yet to get, because I highly doubt that we're going to get anything not on there until at least that has been exhausted. And honestly, I think that 1 new monster a month is kind of a really reasonable time frame, at least with those 4 that were on the leak list, as probably a lot of work has already been done to them, and it's a good way of keeping people consistently interested in the game without expecting things, you know, too quickly. But we'll talk about the likelihood of that later on, though admittedly, how awesome would it be for the spring update to end with a monster being all like, surprise, and crashing the party. So this prototype footage then is really cool, especially instantly this lighting system, which obviously got cut from the main game, sadly, as I think it is so atmospherically rich. Like, the idea of carefully moving through this dark cave, not sure if you're quite alone in there, and just seeing this faint movement in the darkness. Hang on a minute. Is that... and then you suddenly get jumped by something. Like, imagine a Kezu in there, right? Like, this white ghost, silent, crawling creature on the roof above you, hidden by the gloom. Its acidic saliva dropping down. You notice the noise, see the drips, look up just in time to catch its extendable maw, eyeless rows of teeth heading towards you as it grabs you in a grapple attack to start the fight, and you're just like, holy shit! Like, how freaking atmospheric would that be? Like, that would be such an awesome story moment, and obviously Naga would do really well. Like, I love the idea, by the way, of monsters hunting the hunter. Like, imagine a deep forest map with Naga Cougar in it, and it's just prowling after you like the panther that it's modeled after, and you get this feeling, and you turn around just in time to see it pounce out of some thick tree line and start the fight by attacking you that way. I mean, oh, that'd be freaking badass. I would love to have certain monsters that if they're on the map and they catch scent of you, catch sight of you, they will start stalking you. That would be so cool. Granted that a Kezu might be a bad choice for anything stealth-based, since it likes to spend most of its time roaring. Are we good? And it has one hell of an irritating roar. God damn it! Seriously, it's why a lot of people hate him. But no, it would still be pretty damn neat. But yeah, the darkness is fantastic as well, because it gives you an actual more environmental use. You can use the glow moss to light your way, which right now, I mean, it just makes pretty little colourful areas, and I mean, you could fire it at some monsters' faces for an actual effect, but let's be honest, it's a little bit wasted. And the idea that you actually do have to use the environment a lot more is very prevalent in this prototype. I mean, look, you know a system has got potential when it makes plain normal Jagras seem rather intimidating. Seeing that pair of eyes light up in the darkness, then another, as you realize, hang on, am I being swarmed here? You know, granted, now it still wouldn't be that, I mean, it's just Jagras, but if you're a new player, or at least if this is your first time experiencing this, that's still going to be a, oh, kind of deal, right? Because right now, Jagras essentially just spend their time going,
Oh, now you fucked up. Now you fucked up.
Now you fucked
Now
up.
you fucked up.
Now you fucked
You have
up.
fucked
Now
up
you
now.
fucked up.
Now you have fucked up.
Now you fucked
Now
up.
you fucked up. Now you fucked. Oh.
And then never really acting on it, bless him. So, I do think they initially, and you know, they hinted and said as much, they wanted the environment to play a much bigger role in terms of both hindering you, helping you, providing options, using traps, getting caught in traps, using your slinger. They essentially wanted the living world part to be super more pronounced than it ended up being. Granted, it's still there, and they did stress that hiding in bushes was something that they managed to keep, right? But a lot of the things they tried just didn't work out. They found that it was too cluttering, there was too much going at once, the animations were clashing with each other, having the hunter react to everything around him, and yeah, I guess that is fair enough. I mean, a lot of the things, it seems they just ran out of time. They had a vision that far outstripped what they were able to do during development, and they still very much want to end up with a game that includes a load of these features that they were talking about, and it's very much worth watching the actual thing with the commentary. I'll link it in the description. This edited version was done by Weiss Gaming, and it's really quite useful to see what they were really talking about. But I think that in the future, in a few years, when we end up with Monster Hunter World G-Rank expansion, or even Monster Hunter World 2, or however it ends up going down, I think the game will get exponentially better, as they've now actually had what amounts to a very well done test run with this game, and they can finally start to fully realize the incredible vision that they so clearly had. Just imagining a Monster Hunter World in 5 years, when everything is as they saw it in their head. Oh, that is just, oh, I need a tissue. I'm joking, obviously, I already had a tissue. But we have a very cinematic hunt here, right? Running along the treetops alongside the Anjanath as he's desperately trying to chase down the Aptonoth. I mean, it feels very natural, doesn't it? And I do absolutely love the emphasis on staying hidden while you are being a hunter stalking prey. Because, you know, obviously the finding tracks, finding the monster, it's all well and good, but here, this has got to be one of the most hunting the monster before the actual engagement that I've seen out of hundreds of hours of gameplay, and that's really awesome. Seeing it in the distance, completely focused on its prey and not really worrying about you until it eventually gets one, and that's when it's distracted enough for you to go for it. That's like a cool pounce moment. And the thing is, a hunter should be hyper aware of how to use his environment, or at least how to not let the environment get used against him, because that's part and parcel of being a hunter, and this prototype really stresses that a lot more than actual gameplay that we have right now, I think, does. The colours as well are a lot more saturated, the greens are a lot greener, they pop more, but I think the reason that that got toned down, and I think the reason that we've ended up with the kind of more muted but a lot more coherent art style, is that I think Anjanath himself is lost a little bit when the background is so bright. I think right now the more muted palette on the environment really helps the monsters pop a lot more, and they should be the focus, so I can see why they went with that choice. But I mean, you guys will have to let me know on that one. How are you feeling of the visuals of this compared to how we actually ended up with in the games? We've got like a cool mount going on here, and one of the things that I really like is that these boulders were clearly a nest of Jagras. Anjanath smashing against them kind of disturbed them, and now the Jagras are like, oh, okay, alright, this is fine, we got this, and they actually do end up going for him when he's weakened and down, which does happen in game, but a lot of this stuff I feel like you don't notice. And this brings me to the main thing that I kind of wanted from seeing this, and it's actually a spin-off Monster Hunter game, because I don't think you could do it within a normal Monster Hunter. But imagine not being a hunter in this world and having to travel from town to town and pass through this jungle, let's say, and let's say you as average Joe accidentally attract the attention of, well, an Anjanath. How Jurassic Parky escapey intense would that be? Imagine Monster Hunter as a more grounded suspense, maybe even horror type experience, where you have to desperately run, use your knowledge of the plants, the environment, how the animals interact with each other, hide and desperately scramble and climb as you are being hunted and chased down by this impossibly powerful creature you as a non-hunter have no possible way of defeating. You can only outsmart it. Imagine that, right? Each different map and environment would be a different challenge, and I don't know, I love the idea of just make me normal person and I wish to survive in, well, World of Monster Hunter. I don't know, it's always been something that I've wanted, and this prototype, more than anything I've ever seen, really stirs that within me, because he is just escaping and using the world to stop this Anjanath fucking his shit up. Even from just using the flower to stop him being pinned and eaten, hiding in the tree. You can imagine the ba-boom, 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 as you're like, Anjanath, please don't get me, don't find me, don't know that I'm in here. And this does happen in game, right? If you go hide in a tree stump, Anjanath will do his, are you there? I see you, and then smash the trunk. But how often does that happen? What reason would you have to go hide in a tree, maybe outside of healing, against an Anjanath? You don't really, you just fight it. So you kind of lose that almost immersion from the fact that, lol, we're just gonna fight and kill it. So I really do think a more you are weaker and defenseless version of Monster Hunter has so much merit, and there's been plenty of spin-off games, so you never know. But eventually we lead it through this more flooded forest type area, and look, I think this map, which clearly is very different from the one that we got, is definitely more northward. It is during the more rivery areas on the map, and I think this gives precedent to maybe think that a make normal forest map about 25% bigger, expand it northwards, and you can kind of see where this would happen through the end of the map on the actual map, and add new monster that takes advantage of that area. This more treetoppy up top, or you can be wading down bottom in the water as your two main options here. I don't know, I think that could be a really cool way of adding a deeper jungle and a more flooded forest and a more atmospheric, darker area when they eventually get round to being able to implement that in a way that actually satisfies them. So eventually we get Anjanath in the trap, and Lagiacrus is his time to shine. Although note that Anjanath does still try and kill you while he's on his back, which is a really cool way of signifying how territorial and aggressive he is, because I don't think that comes across as well in the current game. But I don't know, I kind of like it. I think he should still doing it. Having a monster that always tries and kills you at all times. Granted, Devil Joe does it in his traps as well, but you know what I'm saying. And Lagiacrus comes along, and I say tough war, it's kind of tough slaughter. He one-shots him. Either Lagiacrus is massive or Anjanath is tiny, because the size of these two monsters should not be so different that this should even be able to happen. But yeah, you guys were right, it's Anjanath. I just thought it didn't make any sense, okay? And then we get Lagiacrus doing his electricity and just looking badass. And the reason, as I said in the last one, that they took him out was because they just couldn't get him to feel fun. They just couldn't get him to work properly. But on top of that, they couldn't get his neck to look right. It kept wobbling constantly left and right, and you ended up with wobbly neck Lagiacrus, which sounds like a subspecies. Oh no, it's wobbly neck Lagiacrus, which I would still totally take over no Laggy, but still, I guess that shows the dedication to wanting everything to be perfect. But this should be almost a good thing, because it means they do have a working Leviathan skeleton, and they only need to solve this issue before we might get some more of the proper land-based ones. And I would love to have an Ignactor make an appearance, or hell, even Mitsune, but I don't think you could ever have one of the Fated Four without all of them. But a full-on all four Fated Four DLC with like a new map, I mean, wouldn't that be like the dream? But yeah, there you essentially have it. We don't get to see Lagi fight or anything, which is kind of sad, but it's very interesting, right? To see how it was looking towards development and actually see how it changed and what their vision was. So in terms of monsters that we might get this month then, real quick, we have Oroshi Kirin, which is a frost subspecies of Kirin, uses ice, and I think this is going to be good for the game because Leggy really solo repping ice is kind of sad, and I feel like it could really be quite good. But the thing is, it is a subspecies, which is inherently less exciting than a whole new monster, which is why I think Oroshi Kirin is by far and away the most likely thing to be a surprise Spring Festival ending bonus, if indeed it does actually go down like that. But the others are Lunastra, the female version of Teostra, a monster in her own right, as much as Rathian is a monster in her own right, away from Rathalos, and definitely could be its own monster. We haven't seen Lunastra in many games, and it would be kind of cool to fight her again. She got very much put by the wayside from Teostra taking over the spotlight, and honestly, I've forgotten for the most part how she even fights. I do think it's similar, but I think it'll be really interesting to see that again. And then we have Alatreon, who's a dragon of black dragon status, a first-class dangerous monster. I want to do an entire lore video on these guys because they are inhumanly powerful. They are Elder Dragons to Elder Dragons, despite still technically being Elder Dragons, but it's that much of a tier up again, and he controls all the elements. He would need his own special area. He'd need a lore introduction, a bit of story. The same with Treasure Dragon, and this is something that I think is interesting. Treasure Dragon, we've no idea. It was just labeled as Treasure Dragon. A lot of people are wanting old monsters to return, and yeah, Brachydios Mios, I would love him to come back, but I feel like we're eliminating the possibility too easily of, I'd actually prefer them to just add new monsters. For the first time, they can't just keep designing and adding brand new monsters to everyone, which I think Treasure Dragon will end up being, and I think that might be the better way to do it. I think that could be really awesome to see every now and then just a fully brand new monster get added to the game, and Treasure Dragon sounds like it's going to be a big deal, so again, I'd be surprised if it randomly shows up. So my money is on Oroshi Kirin, but obviously let me know what you guys would like to see there. But for now, my name has been Rage. This has been my little take on the prototype footage, and I hope to see you soon. Spring Festival not long until it comes out. Are you excited? Oh! Subscribe for more. Oh, goodbye.
Rage Gaming with the video flow.
That's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kind of relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping on it. I'm gonna go now. This was shit.